following may not necessarily represent the views or opinions of this station, but they're coming around.
What is your major malfunction?
And now, the original pork-eating crusader,
Mr. Tom Claxton.
Last week, we lost both Mayberry and Matlock with the death of Andy Griffith, the iconic American actor whose folksy style and wit entertained generations of Americans for many from my generation. The Andy Griffith Show, which ran from 1960 to 1968, depicted the lives of characters in the fictional small town of Mayberry, North Carolina. I thought that was in Mississippi, where I'm from. The show revolved around the lives of Andy, Opie, and Aunt Bee, probably all of my cousins, along with a sterling cast of supporting characters, including Don Knotts as the inept Deputy Barney Fife, Jim Neighbors as Marine Gomer Pyle, and George Lindsay as Goober. Much of the action reflected things that regular Americans did in the 60s, including going to church, leisurely haircuts at a real barbershop, and enjoying Sunday dinner with family and friends. Parents were obeyed, elders were respected, morals were taught, and the fishing hole was always stocked. Later generations of television viewers remember Griffin as the silver-haired, soft-spoken attorney Matlock of the show bearing the same name. Here again was Andy Griffin, who was still every bit the epitome of the Southern gentleman, almost as if Sheriff Andy was now all grown up and left the hilarity of small-town America for a serious law career in the big city. While many of the scenarios that Matlock encountered both in and out of the courtroom were less realistic, the cantankerous attorney was always able to nail the actual perpetrator of the crime. Along the way, Griffin was able to maintain some of the American ideal that he had identified in Mayberry. That good always triumphs over evil. Well, that's gone to hell in a handbasket. And could do so even without the 60-minute confines of the modern television drama. The passing of Griffith especially coincided with the July 4th holiday, ignited a wave of nostalgia for the days gone by when life was less complicated, the pace a little slower, the sky a little bluer, the grass a little greener. What many of us would call the good old days.
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay.
But truth be told, the good old days weren't always so good.
Say goodbye to the oldies but goodies. 'Cause the good old days weren't always good, and tomorrow ain't as bad as it seems.
As a friend recently reminded me, while the birds sang sweetly and my hair was darker, a lot darker, we had to deal with things like polio and measles, the carnage of wars like Korea and Vietnam, bomb shelters, and the ever-present threat of global thermonuclear war.
Shall we play a game?
Love to. How about global thermonuclear war?
All that, and there was no air conditioning or internet, and the 3 channels on television were black and white. Although, like healthcare today, they were free. America was all about baseball, mom, apple pie, and Chevrolet. You wonder if the folks in Mayberry would recognize the America of today, where the national pastime is mixed martial arts. Opie has 2 moms, apple pie is outlawed by the health Gestapo, and Chevrolet is part of government motors. Oh, and the late Griffith was a shield for Obamacare. Can I say Obamacare again? How's that for change? Well, it might be comforting to know that the more things change, the more they stay the same. You see, the military drawdown that the Obama administration is shoving down our collective throats is remarkably similar to those of previous administrations. And history repeatedly illustrates the disastrous results. Harry Truman reduced the Army from 8 million soldiers to fewer than 500,000 and attempted to eliminate the Marine Corps entirely. The result? Korea, a war he never envisioned nor wanted to fight. Dwight Eisenhower sought to reduce the Army and Marine Corps to rely on the newly formed Strategic Air Command, better known as SAC. The result? Vietnam, a war that neither Eisenhower nor Kennedy nor Johnson wanted to fight. By 1970, our Army was a fractured shell of its former self, and much of our professionalism was dispirited NCO corps voted with its feet and left. Jimmy Carter's ineptitude and neglect led to the hollow army of the late 70s, and his purposeful gutting of our intelligence service led to the Iran we know today, along with an army that could not follow through in its attempt to rescue the American hostages in Iran. After the Reagan buildup that gave us our ability to fight so well in Operating Desert Storm, Clinton again devastated our ground services with talk of a phony peace dividend by reducing the Army from 16 divisions to 10. See Black Hawk Down for the results of this crap. As recently as the Bush administration, Donald Rumsfeld sought a policy to exploit it to replace the human component in war. Had it not been for September the 11th, the Army would have gone down to fewer than 8 divisions, citing phantom savings from the end of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. President Obama's proposals will directly lead to a reduction of 200,000 between the Army and Marines, whose numbers will blossom into a legend of nearly 1 million new veterans in need of care and employment over the next 5 years. Once they are all in the rolls as veterans, then they can look forward to a string of broken promises as their costs from their earned benefits spring upward year after year. Welcome to shared sacrifice in the new America. It is said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. History tells us that we are on the wrong path for our nation, its military preparedness, and our commitment to our veterans. Only this time, our leaders are doing not out of ignorance,
Surprise, surprise, surprise.
but with a calculated, progressive vision. Well, while the good old days weren't always good, the solution to our leadership problem is so simple that even Barney could handle it.
And bud.
You got to nip it in the bud. Nip it.
And bud.
You got to nip it in the bud. Nip it.
Nip it. And bud.
We as veterans have the ability and the duty to come together to speak as one voice and let all our elected officials know that November is coming and we will vote 25 million strong. Let's just say that we're keeping the faith, brothers, with the good old days.
I'm keeping the faith. Yeah, keeping the faith.
For the Scuttlebutt Network, this is Tom Claxton.
Where's your drill sergeant, men?
Load up, sir!
Load up, sir!
So am I to understand that you men completed your training on your own?
That's the fact, Jack! That's the fact, Jack!
These are exactly the kind of men I want working on the Scuttlebutt Network.
Boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka, boom, shakalaka.